London, a light rainy afternoon. Jamie Dornan sits with a cup of hot tea, his eyes sparkling with pride as he talks about the film that took the silver screen by storm, 50 Shades of Grey. And what moves him most is the sympathetic and supportive reaction from his family. At first, I thought they would freak out, Jamie laughs. Who wouldn't be, seeing their son tied up with a tie on the big screen? From shy to proud, a traditional family's journey. Born into a fairly traditional Northern Irish family, Jamie was afraid that his role as Christian Grey, a billionaire with an unconventional love life, would disappoint his parents. But the opposite happened. My dad, a retired obstetrician, just said, "You know, that movie made a lot of people talk about consent and boundaries in relationships. I think that's a good thing." And Jamie's mom? She even bought tickets to see it 3 times, bringing her friends and her favorite caramel popcorn. Overcoming prejudice. 50 Shades is part of pop culture. Many people consider 50 Shades of Grey a guilty pleasure, but for the Dornans, it's a testament to artistic courage. "I didn't go into this business to play safe," Jamie says. "I went into this business because I wanted to tell stories that people would argue about, think about, and remember." And indeed, 50 Shades went from being a critically panned film to a cultural icon, opening up conversations about love, control, and choice. A family dinner, like no other. Jamie once joked in an interview. "One time, at Christmas dinner, my grandmother asked, 'Jamie, did you really learn how to use a whip from a movie?' I almost choked on my wine." While it was a funny moment, it reflected one thing. The Dornan family, in their own way, turned embarrassment into acceptance, and then into pride. When the Dornan family watched 50 Shades, a night like no other. Belfast, on a chilly Saturday night, at the Dornan family's historic home, there was a family movie screening. But it wasn't Titanic, it wasn't Love Actually. No, it was 50 Shades of Grey. And in the middle of the sofa, Jamie Dornan sat bolt upright, his face as taut as a string. "I can't even remember the scenes. I couldn't even look at the TV," Jamie recalls. "Especially when that scene came on. One screen, many expressions." Jamie's father, Jim Dornan, sat with his arms crossed, his face analytical as if he were watching an operation. His mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, not from emotion, but from laughing so hard she cried. "My mother whispered to me, 'Jamie, you look so funny when you're so serious. Your face when you signed the contract was more tense than when you took your first driving test.'" His sister kept clicking her tongue. "Oh my God, Jamie, if I had known about this scene, I wouldn't have let it be shown in the house." Even her grandmother, who is almost 90 years old, was there. She sat in an armchair, sipping tea and commenting, calmly, "At least he's wearing good leather. In my time, movies were only in 2 colors, black and white. Now there are 50 Shades of Grey." A memorable moment. When it came to a super hot scene, Jamie deliberately poured orange juice to avoid it, but his mother suddenly asked, "Is this scene real or CGI?" The whole room was silent for 3 seconds. Then everyone burst into laughter like crazy. Jamie buried her face in her pillow. "No CGI, Mom, but there are props." And after the screening, a heartfelt conversation. When the film ended, the Dornans didn't talk about the muscles, they didn't talk about the sex scenes. They talked about the characters' emotions. They asked Jamie about the transformation, about the pressure of playing a controversial role. "What makes me proud," Jamie said, "is that they don't see me through the Christian Grey lens. They see me, an actor who dares to challenge himself, who isn't afraid to be misunderstood. And that, for an artist, is the most precious thing." Ending with a cup of tea. The evening ended with the family gathered in the kitchen, Grandma pouring tea, Mom getting butter cookies, and Jamie promising never to let them see part 2. Part of it was because there were more sex scenes. The other part was because Dad started analyzing the ropes like he was reading a physics textbook. If 50 Shades made people blush, in the Dornan household it made them blush and laugh and bond more than ever. A strange, memorable, and deeply human story. Jamie Dornan and the Teacher-Teacher Conference, when Christian Grey invades school. Belfast, a week after the family screening, Jamie Dornan thought things had calmed down. But life, as the writers say, never stays quiet for long. And the last thing he expected was for his character, Christian Grey, to infiltrate his daughter's school. I thought the worst thing would be when my parents saw the whipping scene. But no, the worst thing was when my daughter's kindergarten teacher asked her, "What does your dad do?" And she said, "He ties people up in movies." The world's weirdest parent-teacher conference. Jamie, in a hoodie and sunglasses, walked into the parent-teacher conference hoping to be as quiet as a ninja. But then everyone looked at him as if he were a love storm straight out of Netflix. One mother whispered, "Don't look into his eyes. It's dangerous." And the father next to her asked for a selfie because his wife loved 50 Shades more than her husband. The principal, trying to keep her voice professional, said, "Mr. Dornan, we respect the profession, but could you tell your daughter not to tell her friends about the Red Room?" A parent called, thinking we had a secret classroom in the basement. The Dornan family, from tradition to media. Jamie's grandmother, upon hearing the news, immediately filed a petition to change the name of her daughter's class to Gray Area. At least let her learn how to negotiate contracts like Christian Grey, she argued. His parents, on the other hand, were undeterred. Jamie's father said, "This is the result of art having an impact on society. And sometimes art makes teachers call at 10 o'clock at night." Jamie, the most embarrassing father of the year? On the way home, Jamie's daughter looked at him and asked, "Daddy, when I grow up, can I act like you?" Jamie replied after a philosophical silence, "Yes, baby, as long as you choose a movie that doesn't have handcuffs." The end. A family that laughs through challenges. Despite their many hilarious situations, the Dornan family never lost their sense of humor, or their love of art. By embracing their differences, they demonstrated a simple yet powerful truth. Family is not a place to avoid the storm. Family is a place to put on a raincoat and walk through it together. In Jamie, he is still Christian Grey to the world. But to his family, he is a son, a father, and an actor who dared to step out of his comfort zone to tell a story. 50 Shades of Grey.